Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Roy Heatherly. I'm President and CEO of the Monroe Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to welcome each of you to the State of the State Update Luncheon with Governor Jeff Landry. Thank you all for being here. I hope you've had the opportunity to finish your great lunch from Aramark, complimented by a cool bottle of water, King Springs water. If you've not, I'm going to ask you to please pause for a minute. I want everybody to stand, and I'm going to ask Reverend Ike Bird, Senior Pastor at Mount Zion Baptist Church, Monroe Chamber Board member and a great friend, to come up and give our invocation. If you'll remain standing after the invocation, Jeremy Harrell, our 2024 Chairman of the Board, is going to follow with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Bird.
Let us pray. Gracious Lord, how we do thank you and we praise you for this day that you've given unto us. For this indeed is a day that you've made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. God, we thank you for how you've blessed us and how you've called us to be your own. You've made us in your image and in your likeness, God, that we might bring forth good works even here in the earth. And so help us now to allow our lights to so shine before men that they might see our good works and glorify you. We're grateful this day for our chamber. Thank you for our governor who's here, God, with us on today, and all of our elected officials. We pray your blessings upon them in a special way. Thank you for this university, and God, we're so blessed by you. Now help us to honor you in all that we say and all that we do. Bless our food. We ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ike. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor Bird, and thank you, Jeremy. Well, I have to say it. It is a beautiful day in Monroe, Louisiana. It's a beautiful day in West Monroe, Louisiana. It's a beautiful day in Sterlington, in Richwood. The quadruplex, as Mayor Brown would say. It's a beautiful day in Ouachita Parish. It's a beautiful day all over Northeast Louisiana. It's a beautiful day at ULM, at Louisiana Delta Community College, at VCOM, at the West Monroe Indoor Sportsplex. It's a beautiful day at Black Bayou, at the Zoo, at Drax, at Oshner's LSU Monroe, and St. Francis Health, at Origin Bank, at Neelamac, at Mid-South Extrusion, at BRIP, and at EPC. It's a beautiful day at Sterlington Sports Complex. It's a beautiful day at the Richwood Multipurpose Center. It's a beautiful day at the Children's Museum, at Chenault Aviation and Military Museum. It's a beautiful day at Charles Johnson Park, at Forsyth Park, and at Crowley Park. It's a beautiful day at the African American Museum. It's a beautiful day at the Miller Roy Building. And it's a beautiful day on the Ouachita River. And it's a beautiful day at our wonderful airport. It's a beautiful day going east or west on I-20, and it's a beautiful day going up 165 north and south. We are so blessed to live in this wonderful, great community. And today, it's an extra beautiful day because we're honored to have Governor Jeff Landry and First Lady Sharon Landry of the great state of Louisiana with us. Please join me in a round of applause. Governor and Mrs. Landry, thank you for being here. Thank you for your years of service to our country and your years of service to our state. We think the more you visit, the more you're going to love us. And the more you love us, the more you're going to help us celebrate. We love to celebrate. Up here, our favorite Bible verse is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and future. And you'll find our region, Northeast Louisiana, is full of hope, and we know with your help, we've got a very, very bright future. And so we think we need to give you a proper Monroe Chamber of Commerce welcome. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up real quick. Now, at everybody's chair, you got Louisiana state flags. And we want you to start waving those flags so you can show the Landrys how much pride we have up here. And then, like a Monroe ribbon cutting, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and I want you all to yell as loud as you can. I want you to blow the roof off Bayou Point. So everybody ready? You're waving them? Okay, here we go. 3, we're not practicing. 3, 2, 1, yeah! Man, great job, everybody. Have a seat. Governor, we're glad you're here, man. We're glad you're here. We look forward to your remarks shortly. Thank you, Mrs. Landry, for joining. Now, if you notice, we've got a shortened head table because we had so many requests for table that we cut out a couple of the head tables, and we've got a shortened head table, and I'm going to introduce him. You met Pastor Bird with Mount Zion Baptist Church, Brandon Welch Inc. Development, and the 2024 Chairman of the Board for the West Monroe, West Washita Chamber of Commerce. Next to him is Jeremy Harrell, 2024 Chairman of the Board for the Monroe Chamber of Commerce and Executive Vice President for Guaranteed Bank. Next to me is the Honorable Friday Ellis, Mayor of the great city of Monroe. Next to him is the Honorable Jeff Landry, Governor of the great state of Louisiana. Next to him is Sharon Landry, First Lady of the great state of Louisiana. And next to her is the Honorable Shane Smiley, President of the Washita Parish Police Jury. Please join me in a round of applause. Now, the sponsors just kept coming and coming and coming and coming. And Governor, we've got 39 sponsors today because they wanted to come hear you speak to us today. And I think it's important. I'm going to go very fast, but I'm going to read their names real fast because I think it's important that you hear who they are because you have a lot of support up here. EPC Etheridge, Atmos Energy, Century Next Bank, Chase, Cornerstone, First Horizon Bank, Holyfield Construction, Homeland Bank, Hurd McElroy Vestal, Johnny's Pizza, Mid-South Extrusion, Monroe Housing Authority, Origin Bank, Oshner LSU Health Monroe, St. Francis Health, our University of Louisiana at Monroe, Acadian Ambulance, Louisiana National Bank, Drax, D&J Construction, Entergy, Washita Valley Federal Credit Union, Guaranteed Bank, Kinetic, Central Oil and Supply, ServPro, 318 Construction, Creed and Creed, United Way of Northeast Louisiana, the P-Card Group, Samco, and Sparklight. Wow, Hall of Fame businesses all here for you, Governor. Give it up for our sponsors, please. Along with our sponsors, we had so many elected people that just kept coming and coming and coming. Governor, we have mayors, we have state senators, state representatives, federal delegation representatives, police jurors, school board members, city council members, aldermen, alderwomen, judges. There was just too many to read all their names, so I'm going to ask them all to stand up if you would real quick. If you're an elected person or a representative, stand up. Come on, we know you're here. Stand up. Give it up to them. They jump in the arena every day for us. And we want to give a special thanks to the governor's staff. They do a fantastic job, and they have been awesome to work with. Please join me in giving a round of applause to the governor's staff. Now, it's my pleasure to call the Honorable Friday Ellis up to offer a welcome on behalf of the city of Monroe. Give it up for the mayor.
Roy always coming in clutch to cover me. Thank you, Roy. Before I welcome the governor and the first lady, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege to honor someone, a patriot, a hero, a community champion that we laid to rest today. Today we lost a good one, or the other day we lost a good one in Randall Rugg. Randall was a Marine, fellow Marine, and someone who gave this community all that he had. Even past injury, he came home and continued to serve. As you all know, there are people in our community that have bared the brunt of freedom for us. And it's our job to recognize them and to honor them each and every day. And so if you can, I wish you'd bow your head for a moment of silence for his family. All right, thank you. I always like to think of this, and I want to give this to him from one Marine to the other. The last verse of the Marines' hymns read, and this is how I always envision Randall. Here's to health and to the Corps, which we are proud to serve. In many a strife we fought for life and never lost our nerve. So if the Army and the Navy ever look to heaven's scenes, they'll find the streets guarded by a United States Marine. Thank you, Randall. Now, Governor and First Lady, we are so honored to have you here. Monroe is a city that is growing. And as you know, there are many things that we're very proud of and to be proud of, but the most things that we're proud of are the people here today that are before you, the businesses and the people who continue to invest here and look to our leadership and your leadership, sir, to bring Louisiana forward. We all want the same things across party lines. We want to be able to have safe communities and a safe state. Businesses want to be able to thrive, right? And when kids have a first-class education, they want to have opportunity. And we appreciate you and your efforts. And First Lady, I know your education efforts, we want to say thank you for what you do as well. And so I agree with Roy. When you get to stay up here and get to know us, you're going to get to learn to love us, sir. Very proud people, and we've got lots of reasons to be very proud of. And we're so thankful and can't wait to hear the State of the State address from you and hear ways that you're turning our common pains into our common purposes as Louisianians. And again, sir, thank you for the traveling up here and being with us today and to share your vision for the state of Louisiana. Thank you. And First Lady, thank you as well.
Thank you, Mayor. And now I'd like to call on my good friend Shane Smiley, President of the Ouachita Parish Police Jury, to offer welcome from Ouachita Parish.
Thank you. Thanks, Roy. Thanks to the Chamber, all of our title sponsors, and especially all of you for being here today. We like to think when the governor's in town, we put our best foot forward. And Governor, this is a packed house. You're a real crowd pleaser. We appreciate you and the First Lady making the trip to Northeast Louisiana. We always enjoy having you back here. I like to think that when you were elected, you rolled those sleeves up and hit the ground running like you were headed to a crawfish boil in Acadiana Parish. I mean, I've never seen anything like it before. You were sworn in. You were setting up meetings and making things happen. And I know that your intent is to make Louisiana great again. And I know your intent is to make all of us better as Louisianians, and we appreciate your efforts, and we appreciate your appointments and the job that you're doing so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shane. And now I'm going to bring up Jeremy Harrell to introduce the governor. Jeremy.
Thank you, Friday, for starting that applause for me. I never get that. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to ULM for being such a wonderful host for this event and so many others. We appreciate you guys more than you know. Special thanks to the Chamber staff and especially Senior Director of Events and Programming, Daphne Garrett, for the great work they do every day. Events like these require a huge amount of work and coordination, and it is appreciated by all of us. Now I'm pleased to introduce Governor Jeff Landry. Jeff Landry's love for our state and his passion for helping others is defined by his Louisiana roots. Jeff grew up in the small town of St. Martinville, where his mother was a school teacher and his parents took him to church every day. Every day, actually? Attaboy. Later, Jeff learned the value of hard work in the sugarcane fields and then proudly joined the National Guard serving in Operation Desert Storm. After returning home, Jeff worked as a police officer and sheriff's deputy and later started a successful business and went on to law school. As a public servant, both as a U.S. Congressman and the Attorney General of Louisiana, Jeff Landry has shown strength and courage, fighting for common sense values and bringing people together to deliver solutions. Last October, Jeff Landry was elected the 57th governor of Louisiana in a historic primary victory. On January 8th of this year, he took office as our governor. Jeff and his administration are working hard to make the changes necessary to turn Louisiana around, deliver results, and fight for working families. Jeff resides in Broussard with his wife Sharon and their son JT. Please join me in welcoming Governor Jeff Landry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, y'all. Look, it is always great to be here. I got to tell you, Roy, I might take you around with me. Someone told me, he said, it's so nice to see you and Sharon traveling around together. I said, well, how do you think we fill up the room? You know, I can only fill up half, maybe. But it's Smiley, you know, I got to tell you, I was so moved. I really do appreciate you recognizing the Marine Corps and our veterans. And if you've served in the United States Armed Forces or first responder, could you please stand up? Now, Friday, I think we should have a little fun. I'll tell you about an event that happened on an airplane with a Marine. There was this flight that was leaving Los Angeles, and it was headed to Boston. And as the plane was filling up, this gunnery sergeant came in, and he sat down in first class, and boy, he was in his dress uniform. And one of the stewardesses recognized that that was not his seat. And so she went up to him and she said, sir, I believe you are in the wrong seat. And he said, ma'am, I'm a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I am going to Boston, and this is my seat. She said, well, sir, you know, I don't think this is your seat. And he kept repeating it, and he was a pretty stern fella, as Marines all are. And so she really didn't know quite what to do, and so she went to the back and got one of the other stewardesses and told her what the problem was. And the other stewardess said, I got this. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. And she walked down the aisle right there, and she leaned over to that Marine, and she whispered something in his ear, and that sucker jumped right up, went to the back, and got right in his seat. And the other stewardess was just so confused as to what exactly happened. So she went over there, she said, what in God's green earth did you tell that Marine? She said, well, I was married to one of them, and all I simply told him was that seat was not going to Boston, it was going to Philadelphia. And if he wanted to go to Boston, he just needed to get in 29B. We just got right back up. But we love y'all. We absolutely love the Marine Corps. I think about the last time I was in this room and we were campaigning, and I tell you, campaigning is fun, and governing is hard. When we got to Baton Rouge, I very clearly understood that the only person who likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. And so to institute the changes that we needed in this state, to make this state great, to make this state get its seat in this new industrial South, we had to do a lot of change. And I want to tell you something. The legislators that are here and the ones that y'all elected from Northeast Louisiana have been unbelievable. They really have, and they deserve a round of applause and appreciation as well. We've had, before I get started on the whole state of the state, I got to tell you, y'all are having some big economic wins here. I think that y'all are making a lot of progress in broadband and technology. We just did a press conference on Monday with Gumbo 2.0. I will tell you that this is an area that Louisiana is leading in. This is something that we can be proud in, and it is going to absolutely help the rural parts of our state like no other. And it's going to bring economic opportunity. It's going to help in the healthcare and public safety sector as well. And y'all are leading in that. And then, of course, I know that y'all just, where's Rob? Where's the new LED fella? Rob Cleveland, is that it? Stand up. I'm excited. Hey, Rob. I told y'all we were going to bring some people to Louisiana. Y'all did a great job. Brought him up there. I was talking to him, and he said he got down here from Michigan. Is that where he was? Well, I'm so glad you left Michigan. Yeah. That's what we love to hear. And he told me, he said, he just got back from Baton Rouge, and he just could not believe how excited people were and how interested they were in economic development, which he said was a stark difference from where he left. And I love to hear that, because I think that what he is saying is echoing around this country, and what we said on the campaign trail is that there are people around this country that are looking for a place to live where they can go and they can be free, and their government is off their back, and there's no more, just complete oppressiveness that's happening in this country, and it's happening in the South, and you're seeing it. And I think that what he's saying is exactly that, and that's why Louisiana is open for business, and that is why what I'm going to report to y'all about is basically fulfilling the great campaign promises that we made and then building upon them. It is no secret that Louisiana's economy is, I think, 49th. And Rob, so don't worry, me and your job's pretty easy. When you're at the bottom, ain't nowhere to go but up. And we are going to go up. But during the legislative session, and the reason that I wanted to recognize those legislators is that we passed 13 bills that were then signed into law to help start to move Louisiana into its great seat in this new industrial South. And the first thing we did was we passed a bill to restructure the Department of Economic Development. And in doing so, we hired Susan Bourgeois, who I can tell you is unbelievable. And she is someone who has been in government before, understands business, and she's been off to an unbelievable start. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But the other thing we did was we also passed a bill that was signed into law doing universal recognition of occupational licenses. And in conjunction with that, we also made it easier for doctors in the healthcare profession who want to come into this state from other states to be able to get their licenses so much quicker. And I can tell you that was a huge thing. If we want to welcome people into this state, we want people from around the country with professional licenses and what to be welcome into Louisiana and to have a path so that when they come into Louisiana, they can start to basically employ that trade immediately. And the legislature responded to that as well. And with the appointment of Susan, you know, we partnered her with Susie. Now, I get it a little confused sometimes because we got a Susan at the Department of Economic Development, and we've got a Susie Schoen, who is the Secretary of Workforce Development. And it's important that those two work together. And the greatness is they know each other. And so it was natural to put those two in that particular seat, because I'm telling you, it's like Joe Montana and Rice, you know? I mean, they just know where each other's going. And they both understand that in order to grow the economy, we have to have a workforce to respond to that economy. And so those are the positive changes that they are making. I see Tim Hardy's here, who's the head of our community college system. I know I saw one of the community college heads here as well. And I want you to know that our Susie's goal, I want to talk about Susie for just a second. Susie, when we were interviewing her, and why I know that she is the perfect fit is because she understands that there's an integration that has to occur. And that integration has to occur from inside of the high schools. In fact, as far down into the K through 12 system that we can to reach kids, to let them know that there are great opportunities out there. And maybe they don't need to go to college, or maybe they don't want to go to college, but there are unbelievable opportunities inside the workforce. We've got a great community college system, a VOTEC system, and we're going to strengthen those, and we're going to stop fighting between those, right? We want those things to be integrated, and I can tell you that Susie is the best person for that job. And then, of course, you know, as you see, we're integrating the cabinet, right? So we're partnering Susan with Susie. And then Susie is partnering with LDH. And by the way, Doc, stand up. Huh? My man. Hey. The first Surgeon General for the state of Louisiana. Ralph, and look, it's great. Look, again, another thing that the legislature did, we created a Surgeon General's position. And the greatness about that, and the greatness about having Ralph there, is that he now is, to a certain extent, and I hate to keep saying this because Michael Harrington, the new secretary, is going to come and say, well, wait, am I chained to the bureaucracy? And I have to tell him, yes, you are. But Ralph, by having a Surgeon General, we have basically unshackled our secretary, put in place a Surgeon General who is a doctor, who will always be a physician, took him and decoupled him or unshackled him from that bureaucracy so that he can work with the medical board, with the medical schools. He basically has dominion over healthcare services around the state, which allows him to be in great places like Monroe. And by the way, I got to tell you, I find this fascinating. I had the same thing happen to me in Shreveport yesterday. I called Ralph early this morning, which is why I really like Ralph, because I can call him at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. And sometimes there's very few people I can, but I can call Ralph. And I called him early this morning to talk about a few things. And he said, I got to thank you again for coming to Monroe. And I said, well, why, Ralph? I love to come and see Hardeman and Miss Susan, although it's not duck season. He said, well, it just seems like you are paying more attention to North Louisiana than maybe past governors. And it really saddens me to think that. I hope that's really not true, but I will tell you what I told the Shreveport press the other day, yesterday, because they asked me that. They said, you seem to be coming to Shreveport a lot. How many times will you come? I said, well, I tell you what, you go find out the most time a governor has come to Shreveport, and I'll break that. And that stands for Monroe as well, because we like coming up here. Because I think that this is one of the greatest opportunities that we have in Louisiana for economic development. But going back to some of the things that Susie and LDH are working on, you know, we are working to take people from dependence to independence, okay? We don't want to be known as a poverty-stricken, poor healthcare state anymore. We don't want our people to be stuck in a constant cycle of poverty and ruralness where they just feel like the only way to get out of that cycle is to either move out of Louisiana, go into the big cities. So we want to move them again from dependence to independence. And one of the things that Susie and them have identified is a program that I think was first done in Utah. It's called One Door. And of course it worked so well that the federal government stopped it. But there's a movement, which is real good because, you know, right now we got the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader. We got a great congressional delegation. I know we've got a representative of Julie Letlow's office here somewhere. And we anticipate that they keep the House and we take the Senate and we can pass this one-door policy. And so we're preparing for that. And the way this one-door policy works is that we set up a shop so that people who are looking or needing to get access to social services go through one door. But guess what? When they go through that one door, we also work with them to move them off of that program that they think they need. And so that helps us take people from dependence to independence. And so hopefully, again, if you see Julia, make sure you tell us, say, don't forget, we need the one-door policy here in Louisiana. You don't have to give it to the rest of the country, but if Utah has it, Louisiana should have it, right? And so that was part of the campaign plan promise, was that we were going to work on the economy. And then the next promise was that we were going to do things about crime, that we were going to work on public safety. And so one of the first things we did was go into a special session on crime. And of course, you know, a lot of people, or not a lot of people, basically just the press, wants to say that I am, what is me, is moving too fast. And I told him in Shreveport the other day, I said, listen, I've been in a horse races before. I have never seen a horse break out the gate and be last and be able to get first without going faster than the other horses, right? So we have to move fast. And the legislature responded. And in that crime session, we gave them 2 weeks. They passed 22 bills in 2 weeks, and I can tell you at the end of that session, they looked around and they could not believe that they had moved that fast. But they did. Y'all should give them a round of applause. Now, the good thing for you, the bad thing for them, is that we found out how fast they can move. But inside of those 22 bills that we signed into law were things like expanding the access to drug court, which was something that I consistently fought for as Attorney General, because I've said all along that there are great people that sometimes make bad decisions and they deserve a second chance. And with the opioid epidemic that is plaguing this country and this state, people are making bad decisions, but we have found that our drug court system, which Louisiana had some of the first in the country, is the best at reducing that recidivism. And so they answered that particular call. We corrected the juvenile age, which needed to be done, because if you look around, one of the biggest problems we have in violent crime around this state is in juvenile crime, and that is sad, and it's terrible. And by correcting the age, and I'm going to tell you something, I realized there was a problem because a 16-year-old young black student at McKinley High in Baton Rouge told me that as Attorney General when I went and visited their school. She wanted to know why we reduced the age, because now criminals inside those communities were basically recruiting 17-year-olds and telling them, don't worry, you can go shoot this person, and in 5 years you'll be out. And that is what she told me. And I will tell you that correcting the age is going to bring us to a path of peace inside of the communities that are seeing the greatest amount of violence. Now, it's going to take us some time, and inside that juvenile system, which we're working as fast as we can, because one of the other problems that we have is that we don't have the bed space. I'm sure if you talk to any of the parish presidents or police jurors or whatnot and sheriffs, they'll tell you. And so if you are, a juvenile delinquent, a criminal, you know, hey, listen, I can do whatever I want because there's no place that you can put me. But that's getting ready to change. Because of what the legislature did, they appropriated almost $100 million for us to focus on that, but we're not just throwing the money at the system. We're carefully planning to be able to try to create and working with the Office of Juvenile Justice, regional juvenile centers that y'all control, that are controlled by local governments and sheriffs and judges and DAs that do both pre-adjudication and post-adjudication. And then as we start to put in place those, we are going to require that those centers have educational opportunities for those that are incarcerated in there, that are staying in there. And then we're going to send a bill to the school boards, okay? Because that money deserves to follow that child into the detention facility, because if not, the money stays in that school system and the child doesn't get educated, and all we get are better criminals and not better citizens. And so inside of that, that is what we're going, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I can tell you that that is absolutely the path that we're on. We also, and inside of that session on crime, we focused on the victim and not the criminal. We wanted to make sure that victims had a voice, and we passed things like truth in sentencing. Because if you're the victim of violent crime, you deserve to know how long someone is going to go to jail. And if you're the defendant, you deserve to know how long you're going to stay in jail as well. And we increased the penalties for fentanyl and opioid distribution and carjacking and other things like that. And then we did something that I thought was the greatest part of that crime session, the most important one. We sent a message, not only in Louisiana, but to the rest of the country, that we support our men and women in uniform. We said, if you wear a badge in this state and you stand on that thin blue line protecting us from those that want to wreak havoc on our communities, that we back you. And that is important. And I thank you again for doing that. Now, of course, I got to tell you, in conjunction with that, because we talk about the fentanyl and opioid problem that we have in this country, which is absolutely coming out of an unbelievable porous border. All right? There's no doubt. We know exactly where it is. We know exactly who's doing it. And the fact that the federal government can't get control of it is completely a dereliction of their duty. But I want to thank the legislature for giving us the appropriate funds to send the National Guard to help Texas seal that border. And I'll tell you this, the First Lady has been to the border more times than the Vice President. I've got the pictures to prove that. And while we're talking about our military, I want you to know that our VA Secretary, and in conjunction with the legislature, has just employed a new program called The Boot. And the goal of the Boot program is to make Louisiana a destination for veterans, and to ensure that our veterans, whether they're here in this state or want to come into this state, understand the programs and the accessibility to things that will make them successful in the state of Louisiana. And I think that that is a huge thing, right? I tell you, you got to check it out. They knew about it in Shreveport, but if you don't know about it, we definitely going to make sure that someone from the VA comes up here and tells you about the program. You know, and then fulfilling the third part. Now, here's what I want y'all to understand. We made promises: education, well, crime, economy, education, which I'm going to talk about next. I don't want you to think that we're done. We are going to build on all three of those promises consistently until we get it right, and until Louisiana is number one. Okay? So it's not a one and done kind of thing, it's a consistent deal. And we should demand that irrespective of who the governor is, or who your senator is, or who your representative is, because these are the kind of generational changes that we can make that will ensure that we never have to look back at the problems of the past. And of course, we know, and I'm sure if you talk to Rob, who is completely unprejudiced, unbiased now because he's coming from Michigan, and you ask him, one of the most important things about creating economic development is ensuring that you have a workforce, which we talked about earlier, and you can't have a great workforce unless people are properly educated. Right, Rob? And of course, you know, I've said it consistently. I was raised by a mother who was a school teacher. She taught in the public school system. She taught in the parochial system. And she would tell you that the most important voice in a child's education is the parent. And I want you to know that your legislator heard that loud and clear, and this year instituted the reforms that place the parent in charge, that places the parent back as the most important voice in a child's education. We did some great things. You know, we passed school choice, an educational savings account, and I know that's a little rough in some areas. I was over in Bossier, and I want to talk about it, but I want to make sure that you understand how important it is. We joined the 11th, we're now 11, there are 11 states now, including us, that have instituted ESAs. And in every one of the states that have instituted one, there has not been one public school that has closed. Not one. And if you have a great public school system, you don't have anything to worry about, because that's what it's about. But there are kids right now that are stuck in failing systems. And it is inhumane of us to allow those children to be stuck in a failing school simply because of the zip code attached to their address. And I want you to know something. The legislature, in debating this thoroughly, did a very responsible job of making sure that as we start to implement this, we started with the students who need, and parents who need this the most. We started with parents and children with special needs, okay? It's the first phase of the ESA program. And so if you are in the public school system, your public school system has an unbelievable program based upon that special need, then that allows now children to be able to move into that system. Because I hear it from parents of special needs. They're trying to find the program that fits the child. And if there's not one in that zip code, guess what happens? There's no answer. Think about if you were one of those parents. And so I'm going to tell you something. This program is going to help Louisiana. And then I tell you, the two things that I love the most were the next two things. We did an initiative called Let the Teacher Teach. And that initiative, what we did was we asked teachers to come together and to tell us what it is, what is the obstacle between you and the student, because we heard that on the campaign trail consistently. I would hear teachers say, could you just let me teach? Could you just unshackle me from one mandate or one service, these consistent service hours that take us away from the student, doing the same thing again and again and again. And they gave us a report, and in that report, some things Bessie could do, and the legislature responded. I think Chuck Owens passed a bill called Let the Teachers Teach. I hope we have a Let the Teachers Teach bill at the end of every session, because what it does, it scrapes away the obstacles that are between the teacher and the student. And it says, hey, listen, our teachers are no longer social workers. If we need social workers, we'll get them into schools, but we want teachers teaching our children. And I will tell you, when we did that, you should see the smiles on the teachers' faces. It is one of my most favorable accomplishments that I think that collectively the legislature and I did, was this Let the Teacher Teach initiative, and I hope we have a Let the Teacher Teach bill at the end of every session. And then my favorite, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Let me tell you the story first. What happened to me? What's today? Wednesday? Okay, Monday. Monday, I get over to the Capitol. I go up to the 4th floor. I get in my office, and there's a package on my desk. Open it up, and in it is a Bible. It says, God bless America. Man, what is this coming? Open it up, there's a little note inside. It comes from Lee Greenwood. Now Friday probably can appreciate that, because when he went to basic training like I, that was probably the last music that he heard before he heard a drill sergeant was Lee Greenwood's song, right? Remember that? Yeah, God bless America. So I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And it says, Jeff, I have given you this Bible. I'm giving this out. And so I looked through it, and then it was his cell phone. He said, here's my personal cell number. I said, that was pretty cool. Let me look around. I looked through the Bible, and I noticed that at the back side of the Bible, it was not an ordinary Bible. Because what he had done is he had incorporated in the backside of that Bible, it was a King James Version, the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and other great documents of this country. All, by the way, if you read them, reference our fundamental, undividing belief in an almighty God and the natural laws that he has bestowed upon us. And I thought that was interesting, so I said, well, I got to call Lee. Let me see if you answer. If you gave me a cell number, right? Don't give me your cell number if you don't want me to call you. So I called him up. He answers the phone. That was pretty cool. That's probably the coolest thing about being governor. Sometimes you call and they answer, most of the time. The legislators, they don't answer, they're not happy with me. You know, I got to call 2, 3 more times. But he answers the phone, I tell him, I say, Lee, thank you, this is beautiful. I mean, I really appreciate it. Tell me about this Bible. And he says, well, you know, he said, Jeff, he said, I was thinking one day, he said, you know, if you look at the Bible in correlation to those founding documents, you realize that the group that came to America did not come to escape religion. They came to escape tyranny. And when you think about it, that's a profound statement. And when you reflect on it, it makes you realize how true it is today, because a majority of Americans believe they want to, that their government is putting that kind of pressure back on them. And instead of saying, hey, why can't I practice my religion? The government says, no, you can't. We don't want you to. And I know that because we signed this bill that I thought was like a no-brainer, where we were going to post the 10 Commandments in schools. It created the biggest upheaval I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, what's so bad about the 10 Commandments? Why is it a bad way to live your life? Because I can tell you this, if a child doesn't at least understand the 10 Commandments, he's going to grow up having to understand the criminal code. Right? Thank you. And I will tell you that I have heard, it was unbelievable, I have had more retired teachers come to me and say thank you. I said, well, y'all called Doty Horton in the legislature. They passed it. I did the easy part. I just signed it. Okay? Saying how when they were teaching, how those things that we did fundamentally in the educational system back in the day, they believed created more peace and stability inside of our school system. So it's just amazing. If you see a retired, you should ask them, because they've come up to me and thanked me. And then, so we did it. We worked on the economy. We worked on crime. We worked on education. And in closing, let me just tell you where we're going, right? Because that's important. If we want to give someone like Rob the tools necessary to be able to make this area of the state an unbelievable economic powerhouse, we have got to finally address the tax code. We have got to finally say, okay, enough is enough. Let's look at the way that we raise revenue, the way that other states around us are succeeding. Why are they succeeding? Why are we not succeeding? And to do so, and this is important because this is the chamber. Y'all are business folks. Y'all are going to understand this more than ever as we start to have that debate. I would ask you to be patient and to be open-minded. Because what has happened in Louisiana is layers and layers of 100 years of special exemptions, of special interests that are layered on top of one, on top of another, on top of another. Some of those benefit me. Some of them may benefit you. But let's make sure that once and for all, we say, maybe I should sacrifice a little so that we all get a lot. Let's make sure that the tax code works for everyone rather than just a few. And if we do that, and let's just say, maybe Baton Rouge should not be the place that collects the most. Maybe we should allow our local governments more flexibility because you have more power in participating in that form of government than you do in Baton Rouge. And by doing so, you will be able to see what other states have seen, is that it creates more economic opportunity for people to be able to want to come in. And that's the debate that we are going to have. And when we do, I would ask that you look at it and say, okay, do I really need that? Or do I just want it? Okay? And that's what we're going to have to figure out, the difference between wants and needs. My grandpa used to tell me that. Let me tell you the difference between wants and needs. He said, if you can swim and you're in a boat and it's sinking, you want a life jacket. But if you can't swim and you're in that boat, you need a life jacket. See the difference? And then I think we're working on, we're almost there, and the legislature is completely bought into this. We are going to finally reorganize and restructure the Department of Transportation and Development. I figured y'all were like, I really thought I'd get standing ovations on that one, but we really are. And I got to tell you something. What's amazing to me is as we've been doing it, and as we've been talking to folks, there are some great people who work for the state of Louisiana. There are some great people who work for the Department of Transportation and Development. But they have been bridled, they have been shackled, they have been chained to a system that was invented 100 years ago, and the bureaucracy has piled up, and we have neglected that bureaucracy to place our Department of Transportation into this century to take us, what do they say, from the Stone Age to the Space Age? That's what my DEQ secretary says. She's great too. And we are going to unshackle those people. And let me tell you what I do know, because I did this as the Attorney General. I got to do it because I didn't have any classified employees over there, and they were great. When you empower employees to do the work that they do, because most of them take a job because they are looking for a vocation and a profession, and they enjoy it. And when you give them that responsibility and you empower them, it is unimaginable what you will see. And I'm going to tell you something. We're going to see that when we reorganize the Department of Transportation. And so, look, as I close, I want to tell you, again, I am absolutely confident. And I got to tell you, I want you to know, I believe I'm going to be back here before Christmas. Okay? Well, I hope I am, because duck season, when it starts, Hardeman. And when I come back, I'm hoping that we are going to announce something that's going to be transformative for this area. Okay? And this is something that we have been working on since almost the first month in office. You hadn't seen it. It's kind of, I feel kind of like the farmer who you never see at the grocery store. But I'm going to tell you something. If we can do this, it is going to be so, it's not just transform, it's generationally transformative. It will rekindle this area, the likes of which we have not seen. Now, with all good things comes great responsibility, and there's always growing pains. But I'm going to tell you, just working on those projects that we are hoping can bear fruit and that we can announce here tells me that Louisiana's best days are absolutely ahead of us. And it reaffirms my belief, and if you don't believe me, you can go check with Boo Boo Borrell, okay, who won the Kentucky Derby and the Roses, the Run for the Roses at the Oaks in the same weekend. He will tell you on a horse that started last and finished first, on a little bitty horse, that's what he'll tell you, that you can't get ahead unless you go real fast. But I want the people of this state to understand that the things that I do, that we do in Washington, I am only beholden to the Almighty God, to my family, and to the great people of this state. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so very much.
Governor.